Thanks for stopping by Big Top Gaming. My name's Brian, and in this video I wanted to go over some preparations that I've been doing for an upcoming Iron Gauntlet qualifier. So I'm still playing Winter Corps, and I haven't pivoted off of them except for one game with Brine Bloods, but I'm not really diving deep into those right now. And this tournament was supposed to be last week, but Wisconsin got hit with a bunch of snow, so they ended up pushing it off to next month. So I get a little bit more time to kind of workshop what I'm going through, and figured I would just make a video to put my thoughts out there and maybe get feedback from others. So the first list I want to talk about is my Boris list. So I was listening to some Battle Driven not too long ago. I guess it was a month ago now, but with their experience from Captain Khan, I got really interested in Boris and Yana as a pair. But I've played Boris with the Mastodon, but I just feel like the feat really wants a wide battle group. So to remind folks, for those who don't know about Boris's feat, while in his control range, models in his battle group gain boosted ranged attack rolls, and when a model in Boris's battle group destroys or removes from play one or more enemy models with an attack while in his control range, after the attack's resolved, one other model in Boris's battle group can immediately advance 2 inches and make one basic attack. And they can only do that. Each battle group model can only get that free attack once per game. So with Boris, having a Mastodon is cool because he does have access to snipe, which makes the Mastodon's big gun threaten quite far, and then getting the deep freezers to threat further also is quite nice. But also you kind of lose out on the Field Marshal Pathfinder. But with this approach, where I've got a 5 Warjack battle group, I get extra opportunities to trigger the feat shots, so I can clear out more stuff. I think the Mastodon plays a really big role in trying to keep your opponent off a lot of the table, and has the ability to really go in and do a lot of work in melee. But with this wider list, I just get more shots, and it's a little bit harder to clear through some of my army. You can see that pretty much every single, well, not pretty much, every single model in here has a shield. So we've got, armor 21 dire wolves, armor 22 great bears, and then an armor 21 razor. So everything has a lot of durability. It's a little bit harder to take out 5 warjacks with shields than it is to take out one colossal. It's also a lot easier to shut down one colossal with like really unfortunate debuffs. So this way I just get this extra insurance that I have models that'll be able to do things. And we have a couple I think I've been tinkering around with some of the loadouts on the Great Bears. Like I have my one Blasting Fist Great Bear that's got his cheap slammer head, which I probably won't be slamming things very often with this one. It's just what I put there. I didn't want a second Mage Ward head. But in the other Great Bear, I've spent a little bit more on the loadout to be able to get the heavy cannon shield and heavy cannon. The heavy cannon just has, with snipe goes up to range 15, and having that POW 16 momentum shot just can threaten a decent amount off of certain spaces if somebody's only holding like a large base objective with one model. I can try and like move it off there. So I just wanted to see how this approach would treat me. Otherwise, I bring 2 shield guard dire wolves, and that makes Boris a little bit safer to play into like one big shot gunline type plays that people might have. At least that's the theory, right? When we get to the rest of the list that's non-battle group, I guess I should touch on Razor real quick. So Boris is interesting in that he has access to Veil of Mists to be able to say that these things don't block line of sight, and then friendlies can move through it, they gain Pathfinder, all that stuff. So Veil of Mists allows Boris to handle the cloud walls. Jeez, I had a brain fart for a minute. But my big brain plan here is that Boris can slap down Veil of Mists, and then Razor can charge in, do his grenade launcher targeting flare, and that can enable other things to see through spaces. So it makes your opponent have to think about like how much do they want to commit to a cloud wall, because I've got a lot of different ways of disrupting that cloud wall. And once Razor gets through and into you, he has a pretty impressive profile. This is not something people want charging into their backfields. So that's kind of my pitch on Razor. He's maybe a little bit experimental for this list, but I really like the way of just dismantling clouds completely to where you probably won't even see your opponent drop a cloud wall list into this. When we get to the non-battle group models, I'm going a little wide on the support, and I think you have to make sure the jacks do things. Like I could run my one unit of Arcanists instead just to be able to tap up for some boosts on hits or boosts on damage with guns. But with me running 5 Warjacks, I want to make sure that I have access to as much focus as I need on them. So double Arcanist is there for me. I also have Kruger in here just because Kruger is a kind of a one-stop shop model for being able to hold an area down. He has lots of ways to boost damage rolls or attack rolls, do a spray shot. Like he's just got a lot of utility for that 6 points, and I appreciate having that in a list that at least wants to keep things around Boris so we can try and take care or make sure we're utilizing his feet well. I have the one Winter Korps officer that's going to be toting around with the shock trooper gunners. These guys are also not a bad target for snipe if your opponent's being a little cagey with things. Not that these guys are extremely fast, but when you put the Winter Corps officer on them to get up to speed 7 and then snipe gets them up to spray 11, that's a pretty big threat for both barrels scattergun shots, and it makes it so that you have something that can really start enabling the peace trades at range, because your opponent just can't tiptoe around your threat ranges when you've got something like this that might threaten a little further. They also are a unit that can hold an objective, so I think they're a pretty good inclusion. And then I do bring double Winter Corps snipers with Hunting Dog. My rat is not amazing on these shots, so having access to 2 hunting dogs to be able to run up and give the extra +2 to hit, I think in like a Mastodon focus list, the double snipers might not be necessary, but for me, with having so many Warjacks that need a lot of help hitting, I appreciate the idea of having the War Dog or the Winter Corps hunting dogs on disposal so that I can just get that +2 to hit. Otherwise, the Winter Corps snipers offer ways to deal with the cheap infantry that my opponent might be putting on objectives, or trying to not screen me out so much, because screening's a little bit harder to do in this era of Warmachine, but they're also going to be able to hold some of the objectives that that I would want to not commit, like something like a Warjack 2 or whatever. Not that they would be able to hold the same objective, but you get what I'm saying. They can at least sit on the objective and be there for 5 points, putting out a couple shots here and there to put some damage on some things. So overall, I've played this list a couple times now, and I think that it's got legs. The Mastodon one always feels like really fun and powerful because you do have that really long threat on the gun, and I have considered throwing a deep freezer on one of the Great Bears just to be able to get a little bit of that threat going on with them, to say that, I don't have a Mastodon here, but I've at least got something. But my theme for building Warmachine right now is kind of redundancy. So I want to have a lot of things, because with like in quotes lethality going down, I want to be able to proliferate as much damage as I can. And with gun lines, you are able to proliferate so much more damage because you connect so much earlier than some of those melee armies would. And with Boris's feet being able to get the extra shots out of his battle group models, you can really put out a lot of hurt early on. And then later on in the game, your opponent's kind of scrounging to keep up with the rest of the things that you've got going on. So Boris can go pretty wide and play on a lot of different scenarios, having access to many scoring pieces. On the infantry side, I might be a little bit more low on scoring units, and they're not extremely survivable except for maybe the shock trooper gunners. But I think this Boris list feels really good to me, and it's going to take me a while, or it's going to take me some severe convincing to ever go back to the Mastodon build again, just because I really enjoy having access to this number of Warjacks. To pair up with Boris, I'm running a pretty wide Yana list. Also, like I said, redundancy is kind of my theme for building Warmachine lists right now. So Yana is a really, at least in my opinion, I think she's a really fun warcaster for Khador, for Winter Corps specifically. She has a lot of things going on her and can do. I feel like she plays very elegantly, at least in the way she supports her army and what she brings to it, what she demands of it. With her having conferred rage, you want to have a bit more of a larger battle group. Being able to get +2 speed and +2 mat on our Warjacks is a really big deal, and it's really not difficult for her to kill a model, since she's got the range 10, rate of fire 2, POW 13 shots. They do have crit armor piercing, and she can shoot over things with that arcing fire to be able to like dig certain pieces out. Reposition 2 doesn't sound like much, but it's just enough to get out of the way from the other things in your army taking place to kind of stage in front of her. But she's extremely accurate, super fast, at least not by Khadoran standards, and she's fairly survivable with that armor 18 and 20 boxes. So she also has a lot of tech for, well, I guess she's armor 20, sorry, I forgot about the shield. She's beefy, is really what it comes down to. And if she gets into melee with things, she's got enough attacks to be able to start cutting herself out of it. So conferred rage isn't something that's difficult for her to trigger. You just have to be careful about where you decide to trigger it and how. When we get to the spell list, we already said she wants a big battle group, but she also has access to dash, so she's going to let those friendly faction warrior models get that extra speed bump. And then we can shut down tough with Deathbringers and give the grievous wounds out, so we can stop some of those like auto heals, like rapid healing or something like that. So this can be pretty clutch as a tech piece when it's needed. But Fury Strength is definitely one that gets played with her a lot, where she's going to increase the damage output of her friendly faction warrior models. And then another good reason to bring her is for Wind Wall, so she can shut down or at least make some of that shooting a little more difficult. That was another thing I forgot to mention. The other reason why I have 2 units of Arcanists in that Boris list is they can give them magical weapons, so we can ensure that we don't get screwed over by our opponent's Wind Walls. I haven't really cast Spirit Fang on anything with her just yet. I think that this list is thematic for her, but it doesn't seem to be extremely necessary when it comes up. I have many things that I would rather spend the 2 focus on than Spirit Fang. So this, at least to me, in the experiences I've had with her, Spirit Fang is not a big selling point for her. But getting to the feat, so far I think I've given enough justification for her wanting to have a large battle group and a large amount of warrior models available to her. And Path of Destruction ends up doing something very similar to what Boris does, where she's allowing first she gives your Winter Corps officers a break by having to call Pathfinder all the time, and the other one is that she can give models overtake and allow them to make an extra basic melee attack during their activation. So you're able to set yourself up to where units can cleave through things, and if that unit only has like one good attack, you can at least get that second one out. And it helps out with your melee beaters because they've got nice big weapons. It's like getting getting a free focus by being able to make that extra attack. So she's just another way of proliferating the output of damage in a world, as I said, in quotes, where the lethality's gone down a lot. So back to the list. For her battle group, we bring 4 Warjacks with us, and it's I think like the double direwolf with the shield guards, plow shields, and long axes. This is just a really strong direwolf for me. It's a very cheap direwolf, And Yana, there are certain shots she will not want to get hit with, and having her kind of camp around these two dire wolves with her large base, it allows them to spread out a little bit and maintain that shield guard range. But then with the long axe, we're able to get that range 2 on there. So with conferred rage, they go up to speed 7 and threat 12 inches on a charge, which is nice. So they're able to unpack pretty easy and get into things if they need to go and do work. So again, they're still strong. We've got the armor 20 Warcaster, armor 21 Direwolves, and armor 22 Great Bears because we do put the heavy cannon shields on them. And I wouldn't discount the small shot that comes from them. It's only range 6, POW 14, but they have the ability to apply that while they're in melee too, so it's like getting extra attacks. Like I said, I'm trying to go for as much attacks as I can without losing the staying power of the Warjacks. Getting the shield bonus is awesome. Like I said, armor 22 Great Bears. We're just, no matter what our opponents have in their list, they have to pick the thing that deals with armor, because if they can't chip through these armor 21 and 22 Warjacks reliably, they're going to have a problem. And sometimes that can help you telegraph what your opponent's going to drop, so you can... I've always liked this aspect in Warmachine, where you can put down two lists that have very similar stat lines, so that you force your opponent's hand in getting you to drop or making them drop a list, and then you get to kind of get that extra preview information to say, okay, if you don't drop that list, you will not break my stuff regardless of what I put down. So I'm going to go ahead and tech for the list that can break armor and pick what I want. And I think Yana and Boris drop very different lists in terms of like what they are aiming to do. So at any rate, getting back to the Great Bear, the POW 19 Battle Mace is really good for them too. Getting them up to speed 6 with conferred rage, then charging out to threaten 11 inches is pretty brutal. I do have one with the Mage Ward head, just in case my opponent is slinging some spells that can kind of proliferate some extra protection. My other Great Bear, I did have the extra points to be able to spend the aggressive head on, which is the one I'd prefer on the other Great Bear, but I think the Mage Ward head might make... it hasn't actually done anything for me yet because I haven't played against a big spell slinger, but aggressive is always nice. But we've got double Great Bears with kind of the same weapon loadout, double Direwolves with that same loadout, and now we can get to the rest of the list, which some of this is going to look a little similar to what some of the battle-driven folks have talked about in their list, but just with some small variation. I'm not leaning so hard into certain things. So first, double battle mechanic. All those threat ranges that I listed, the battle mechanic just allows you to get the extra 2 inches on that. So instead, now we're looking at 14 and 13-inch threat ranges on those. So I think having 2 of these is extremely important for being able to crash into the lines early. We don't want gun line opponents to be able to chip at us from range if they feel comfortable playing into this type of armor, and being able to threaten almost as long as most folks' guns shoot is a pretty big deal. And since we have so many Warjacks, if we happen to lose one on the approach, we're not worried about it because we have the extras to back it up. So having the double battle mechanics is really important to me. And of course, we have to have the mandatory Damien in here. Really, with him, we're looking at spell slaving out extra Fury of Strengths. And I really haven't ever used any of his other spells. I think once I was able to Battle Wizard into somebody and then drop a Razor Wind to do or kill another small-based infantry. I think it was a Warden, if I remember right. So, he really is just spell slaving out Fury of Strength. I would love more than anything to have 3 Winter Corps officers in here, but because I've opted to go for double Arcanists, I have the 2. And these Winter Corps officers are really important to the game plan. Not only do we get March for the Pathfinder when we really need it if we're setting up, but we're really getting into the desperate pace for the rest of the things that are coming up in the list. Being able to get +2 speed on infantry allows them to start threatening just as long as some of the warjacks do. So I with all my heart, I want to get a third Winter Corps officer in here. I just don't have the points right now in terms of what sacrifices I would be making, but these are extremely important to the game plan. I would be worried about playing into an opponent who has the ability to scalpel out the mechanics and the Winter Corps officers. That's probably where I'd want to put the direwolves by them. But that's one thing to be really conscious about, is that this list doesn't necessarily need those two pieces, but it makes the game a lot better for you if you have all of them. Again, double Arcanists because I'm running 4 Warjacks, and these ones will get into combat, not the Arcanists, but the Warjacks will get into combat, and when they get there, they will want all of their focus, especially on feet turn, because when they're being able to overtake and punch and keep overtaking, it's just really important to make sure that you're able to load them up and not put Yana into a place where she's sitting low on focus or she can't support the pikemen the way she wants to. So I feel like it's a non-negotiable thing for me to have double Arcanists in here. Then we get into the real brutality of the list, I guess, is where I'm running 1 unit of Shock Trooper Gunners and 3 units of Shock Trooper Pikemen. I will always dance back and forth on whether I take out the Shock Trooper Gunners to add in the 4th unit of Pikemen, just because they do so much. If I was able to get that 3rd Winter Corps officer, I think I would do it in a heartbeat. But the one thing that this list doesn't have is a lot of range threat in it. So having the Shock Trooper Gunners at least be able to get like a 13-inch threat range on some shots at least keeps some people a little honest. I think a lot of people don't really respect the POW 17s that come out of these guys for the both barrels attack, but I wanted to make sure that I had some kind of shooting in there. They've been pretty good for me in every game that I've played them so far. They're allowed to kind of go on a flank and still shoot off of an objective and maintain that for me. So I like that these guys exist in the list, but there's been at least 2 games where I have wished that they were a 4th unit of pikemen. But the Shock Trooper pikemen are so important to this list, in my opinion. Their gist is that they are, like, first you've got Yana. She wants Warjacks and warrior models. And Shock Trooper pikemen are warrior models, they're a unit, and they have flank warjacks, so they also want warjacks to be everywhere in the list. So we want to have that wide battle group. They can get up to arm 19, they're immune to fire and cold and then blast, which is nice for them. The only thing they're not immune to is corrosion. So that's already building up a lot of fun defenses with them. If they get around a mage ward Great Bear, that's another really awesome piece for them to hang out around if you're worried about these guys getting zapped with spells. But the flank Warjack is really, really massive for them. So while they make a melee attack against an enemy model that's in melee range of a friendly faction Warjack model, this model gains +2 to attack rolls and gains an additional damage die. This is just gnarly. When you start stacking the buffs between Fury of Strength and Flank, so you'll end up getting a POW 13 that goes up to a POW 15 with Flank, that goes up to a POW 17 with Fury of Strength, and then you're going to gain an additional damage die. So you've got all these POW 17 Weapon Master pikemen running around, and they're rocketing out against your opponent at speed 7 with a 2-inch reach. Like that, the 12-inch threat on these guys is amazing, and the Warjacks can actually keep pace with them. So this list plays extremely fast, and if your opponent isn't careful, they can just get half their army removed in one shot if they need to commit to the table and don't really interpret how much threat range you have. I'm always really cognizant to tell my opponents how fast this list is, because typically people don't associate Khador with being really fast. So this is, especially since I'm playing against a lot of people who have transitioned from Mark III yet, but this list can really get you out of nowhere. And every now and again, you'll hit that crit armor piercing on the POW 17 Weapon Master, and I've gotten to points where my Warjacks are killing the infantry models and then overtaking into the battle group models that my opponent has, just so I can unleash the pikemen on them and get all of the amazing attacks that come out of these guys. I think that this is the list just works well, and it's elegant in the way that Yana wants this massive battle group to be able to get work out of conferred rage, and then also having the background of the infantry models to be able to take advantage of Fury of Strength and any of the other cool buffs that she brings to the table. So I always want to try and go support light with a list like this, but Yana just can't support the focus, and the Winter Corps officers are too good to not have multiple of in order to get that big speed buff on the Shock Trooper Pikemen. So this list has been an absolute blast for me to play, and I think there's a lot of folks will be like, Yana's better in Old Umbry than she is in Winter Corps, because of course Fury is better than Focus when you've got the spell list like she has. But outside of the bears, I think I would put the Shock Trooper Pikemen on a better pedestal, just because of the massive amount of damage they can do. Not that I'm a bear riding hater. I would love nothing more than to be able to take the bear riders from Old Umbry and bring them into this list. It would be so cool if Yana would just say, you can take bear riders now in Winter Corps, and I would be tickled pink. But that's not the world we live in, and this is the best I'm able to get. Super fast pikemen that hit at POW 17 with Weapon Master, and Warjacks. I love the aesthetic of the Great Bears, at least. The Dire Wolves, I could kind of take them or leave them, but being able to put a bunch of these really awesome models that Winter Corps has access to, I really feel like these two lists help allow me to play Warmachine the way I want to. I want to play a ton of Warjacks and still have all the cool infantry models, so this is just like me having my cake and eating it at the same time, right? So I'm just so stoked to be able to play lists like this, and they've been super fun to play, but are a little bit more in their tweaking stages, I think, in terms of like, I can't get everything that I want, so I have to make sacrifices somewhere. But again, I'm pretty comfortable with where everything is at. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed me gushing over my massive battle group lists over the last half hour. One of the funny things about the tournament getting pushed back is that it's given Steamforged enough time to get me my 2 controllers for Winter Corps, and now I'm like, do I want to play Yana or do I want to move over to Tatiana? Because I've always really liked just the Man of War stuff in general. It was actually one of the lists that I took to Dragonfall, and I think Tatiana, the problems that I have with her is that she just wants too much of everything. With Yana, of course, she wants the big battle group. She wants a ton of units on the table, but Tatiana wants those things too, but her infantry is really expensive, and the Warjacks she wants are really expensive, and being able to try and get the most out of Positive Charge and her feat and everything else is just a very difficult needle to thread in list building. So I'm pretty sure I'm just going to stick with these and play them ad nauseum until the tournament in April comes up, and then hopefully we'll be able to get some after action reports. I'm going to try to bring my camera out so I can actually do some recording of my game, so it's not just me here talking to a infographic as we move forward. But at any rate, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.